What's going on? Coach Aubrey here, and in today's episode, I'm going to tell you how to level up your game so that you can build muscle way more efficiently. It doesn't matter what your program is, it doesn't matter how many sets you're doing, how many reps you're doing. These tips that I tell you today, you can take into your training. So the first one I'm going to start with is embracing the tension on the muscle. Let's use the bicep curl as an example. So you might notice if you do a dumbbell bicep curl, all the way at the bottom, you can release the tension. And then once you contract and begin to flex to bring the weights up, you really feel the tension here. And then when you get to the top, it eases up again. So the most tension is right through here at about this range of motion. So what I would recommend is go slow through these areas of tension, and then pause and squeeze at the top and the bottom of your reps, but don't just release the tension, because that's going to give you a little bit of a break. So once you have that tension going, stay in it as long as you can. Pause, but keep the tension, and then control it on the way down. Pause, but I'm not releasing, I'm keeping that tension before I come back up. So that's the first tip. The next tip is going to be embracing the stretch. So you might notice on all your exercises, when you get to the bottom of your reps, so to speak, you'll feel a stretch in the muscle you're targeting, hopefully. So I'm gonna use the chest press as an example. And what I do is as soon as I feel that stretch in my pecs, is I put my mind on that stretch and I contract that muscle to move the weight. So it's a really good mind-muscle connection trick, which is always gonna help your contractions. So if we come back here, we're going to stretch here, put your mind there, and squeeze where you feel the stretch. So these are pretty light weights, and with my mind and feeling that stretch and connecting to it, I'm making these weights feel really heavy. Come up and then squeeze at the top. And again, you can do this on other exercises. It's not just the chest press. You can do this on leg presses, you can do this on squats. Any of your range of motions, when you get to the bottom of your reps, embrace that stretch, pause like we talked about on the last exercise, and push where you're feeling that stretch. I want to talk a little more about that pause. So let's use a dumbbell shoulder press as an example. The difference between pausing and keeping the tension and pausing and releasing the tension is huge. So when you come down here, it's possible at the bottom of this rep to release tension. You'll notice because your shoulder will kind of slump, and in any exercise you're doing, you'll notice that you come out of your form a little bit when you release that tension. Maybe just a little bit, but you come out of it. So don't do that. So stay in form and just pause. My shoulder is still flexed, I still have that tension, and then I come out of the hole here. Squeeze at the top, come back down, keeping the tension, pause. I still keep that tension, it's still flexing before I come back up. And my final major tip is the longer that you can drag that tension out, the more you're gonna grow. So over time, in order to grow muscle, you've gotta put more tension on the muscle. You've gotta put the muscle under more pressure. So you can do that a few ways. You can do that by increasing the weight more when you come back to the same exercise. You might do that by increasing your rep range, using the same weight that you did before, or you might increase the frequency. Now, the tricky part is when you go and you train by yourself, it's really easy to talk yourself out of that one extra rep. You know there's a difference when you have a trainer standing beside you, pushing you to do those 3 to 4 extra reps versus when you're by yourself. It's really easy to talk yourself out of it. So I'm gonna give you a couple tricks to combat this. And I'm gonna use the leg extension machine as an example because we all know when we do leg extensions, it's so easy once we really feel that burn to talk ourselves out of doing a few extra reps. So what you do is you use a log book. So log the weight you use, log the number of reps that you get, so that way when you come back to the same exercise the next week, there's no talking yourself out of it. You know what you hit last week and you know what you have to pass to keep making that progress. So just keep in mind, you gotta put more and more tension on the muscle over time. And the other thing I wanna tell you is the beginning of your set doesn't have to look like the end of your set. So on leg extensions, for example, I've worked so hard to build the top of my quads. It's an area my body just doesn't naturally want to grow. So what I do is I start off by holding my reps at the top for about 3 to 5 seconds. And then I slowly bring it down, nice and controlled. And then I go back up, kind of trying to stay in that tension for a little longer like we talked about. I squeeze it. That way my full quad contracts. Now, by the time I get about 12 reps in or so, depending on what weight I'm using, I'm not gonna be able to do that. So that doesn't mean I should just stop. I've still got gas in the tank. So what I've gotta do by the end is I might start cranking them out like this. You don't wanna start your set like that, that's not effective, but at the end, if you wanna crank a few out, they don't have to look like they did in the beginning. So keep that in mind, because that's gonna put more tension on your muscle over time. Now, since you made it this far in the video, I'm gonna throw in a few bonus points that will keep you on your toes. So the first thing is, if you are not being intentional about your nutrition, especially around your training window, you are blocking gains from coming into your life. I can't tell you the number of times I hear from people that they forget to eat carbs around their workout, or they don't know, they just kind of like try to drink a little protein shake after their workout. You guys are eating into your gains if you do that. So try to have your protein and your carbs around your workout. That's a point that I don't tell everybody. That's one of my coaching secrets, but it's really not a secret. If you do the research, you'll find it. Carbs are so essential for muscle building. Carbs and protein especially together. So don't skip out on your nutrition. You guys work so hard in the gym, so you don't want to negate those gains later on, all right? Second thing is, it's really easy in this process when we are focusing on building new muscle to get weight hungry. What I mean by that is we want to see more and more weight being moved. We want to have that accomplishment. We want to know that we went from 135 to 155 to 185. But when we start to compromise our form in the process, the gains don't come. And if they do, they don't look as good. We end up with injuries, we might have imbalances. So I suggest to really stay on point with your form. And if it comes down to it, keep your form tight and don't even get an extra rep if that's what it takes. Do that for a while, and eventually you're gonna make that strength gain, but it's not gonna be at the expense of compromising your form. So the last point I'm gonna make is about tools, lifting tools that we can use. You won't need these in the beginning, but as you get stronger, it will be important to incorporate them as you need. One is a lifting belt. This is my husband's, so there's no way I could wear something this big, but it would go around like so. You would tie it in front. And what this is for is to give you a little extra stability for your spine, for your core. So when you start moving really heavy weight, say with a squat, you don't compromise your spine, because it's easy to get hurt as we get stronger and stronger, we start pushing more weight. So I wouldn't use a belt all the time. No matter how strong you are, it is good to still go without a belt from time to time to really build that core, make sure that's staying up to par with everything else. But on your top set, when you're pushing a lot of weight, you might want to start incorporating this as you get stronger. The other thing are things like wrist straps or knee sleeves. I always recommend these if athletes already have an injury, just to really protect yourself, but you might not need them. So don't use these out of the gate if you don't have any problems or you're not feeling any discomfort. But for things like your joints, as you get stronger and stronger, you're gonna be pushing more weight, they might need a little added support. So that's when you whip these out. And again, I wouldn't necessarily use them all the time unless you've had an injury in the past. But maybe incorporate them on your top sets and then get that full range of motion on your back off sets without them. And the last thing, and I swear by these, there's all kinds of different kinds, are wrist straps. These are gonna help you on your pull movements. So the lats are a lot bigger than the biceps or the triceps. So what you'll find is as your lats get stronger, as your back gets stronger, you're gonna be able to move a lot more weight and your arms are gonna burn out before your back. So that's when these come in handy. And just like I said with those other tools, don't use them on every single set. Keep your grip strength strong, keep your forearms strong, but on maybe your top sets, incorporate these. That's all I'm gonna say for the rest of the day. If you got value from this video, please like and subscribe. Feel free to share it, and I will catch you next time. Stay strong.